The dust motes danced in the single shaft of dying sunlight that pierced the grime-caked window of room 317. For Sarah, a freelance urban explorer with a penchant for the forgotten and the macabre, this was paradise. The Whispering Pines Sanatorium, abandoned for nearly half a century, stood silhouetted against the bruised twilight sky of rural Pennsylvania, a skeletal monument to forgotten suffering. Its reputation preceded it. Whispers of unexplained deaths, frantic screams echoing in empty corridors, and a pervasive sense of dread that clung to the very air. Sarah adjusted the head-mounted camera, its red recording light a tiny beacon in the growing gloom. Her YouTube channel, Urban Echoes, thrived on places like this. Tonight, she hoped to capture something truly extraordinary, something that would send shivers down her viewers' spines. "All right, folks," she murmured, her voice a low hum that the sensitive microphone would pick up. "Welcome to Whispering Pines. Locals say this place is haunted by the ghosts of patients who met unpleasant ends. Tonight, we're going to find out if those whispers are true." The main entrance was predictably boarded up, but a rusted service door at the back had yielded to her trusty bolt cutters. The air inside was thick with the smell of decay, mildew, and something else. Something faintly metallic and unsettling. Each step crunched on shattered glass and fallen plaster, the sound amplified in the oppressive silence. Her flashlight beam cut through the darkness, illuminating peeling wallpaper adorned with faded floral patterns, a stark contrast to the grim reality of the place. Wheelchairs lay overturned like fallen soldiers, their rusted wheels frozen in time. Medical charts, brittle and yellowed, lay scattered across the floor, hinting at the lives and the illnesses that had once filled these rooms. As she ventured deeper into the sanatorium, a subtle shift occurred. The silence, initially just the absence of sound, began to feel charged. A prickling sensation crawled up her arms and the hair on the back of her neck stood on end. It wasn't just the atmosphere of decay. It was something else, something watchful. She reached the main operating theater. The circular room with its tiered seating for observing doctors was bathed in an eerie moonlight filtering through the grimy skylight. The cold steel operating table in the center seemed to gleam faintly, as if still awaiting its next patient. A sudden draft snaked through the room, carrying with it a whisper. Sarah froze, her heart hammering against her ribs. It was faint, barely audible, but it was there. A sibilant murmur that seemed to slither from the very walls. She held her breath, straining to decipher the sound, but it was just beyond comprehension. A chorus of hushed voices just at the edge of hearing. "Did you guys hear that?" she whispered into the camera, her voice betraying a tremor. I think there's something here." She moved slowly, her flashlight beam dancing across the room. On one of the upper tiers, she spotted something glinting in the moonlight. It was a small, tarnished silver locket. Curiosity overriding her apprehension, she carefully made her way up the creaking steps. The locket was intricately carved with the initials EM and a delicate forget-me-not. As her fingers brushed against the cold metal, a wave of intense sadness washed over her, so profound it almost brought her to her knees. It felt as if the sorrow of 100 lost souls had suddenly coalesced within her. Suddenly, the temperature in the room plummeted. Her breath hitched in her throat as a visible mist began to form in the air, swirling around the operating table. The whispers intensified, no longer faint but a distinct, mournful chorus that seemed to emanate from the mist itself. Fear, cold and sharp, pierced through Sarah's professional detachment. This was beyond the usual creaks and groans of an old building. This was something real, something terrifying. She backed away slowly, her flashlight beam shaking. The mist began to coalesce, taking on vague, indistinct shapes. They were tall, gaunt figures, their forms flickering and translucent, their silent screams echoing in the sudden, deafening silence that had fallen once more. Panic clawed at her. She had to get out. Turning, she stumbled back down the steps, her ankle twisting on a loose piece of wood. A sharp pain shot up her leg and she cried out. The spectral figures seemed to react to her distress, their forms growing more defined, their silent anguish more palpable. She crawled towards the doorway, her eyes fixed on the exit. But as she reached it, a cold, skeletal hand reached out from the shadows, its touch like ice against her skin. She screamed, scrambling backwards, her flashlight clattering to the floor and plunging her into near darkness. The whispers surrounded her, closer now, more insistent. She could almost make out words, fragments of despair, pleas for help, accusations. The air grew heavy, pressing down on her, suffocating her. Just as she thought she would succumb to the terror, A new sound pierced the oppressive atmosphere. It was a faint, melodic humming, a soft, ethereal tune that seemed to emanate from the depths of the sanatorium. As the humming grew louder, the spectral figures began to flicker and recede, their anguished whispers fading into the background. The cold that had gripped the room began to dissipate, replaced by a strange warmth. The mist thinned, revealing the cold steel of the operating table once more. Sarah, huddled on the floor, watched in disbelief as the humming intensified, filling the room with a sense of peace she hadn't thought possible in this place of torment. A soft golden light began to emanate from the far end of the operating theater, growing brighter with each passing moment. Slowly, hesitantly, she pushed herself up, her injured ankle throbbing. She limped towards the light, drawn by its inexplicable warmth and the soothing melody that accompanied it. As she reached the source of the light, she gasped. Floating just above the operating table was a luminous orb, pulsing with a gentle, golden radiance. It seemed to hum with a life force that was both ancient and pure. And then, she saw it. Lying on the cold steel of the table, bathed in the golden light, was a small, withered music box. Its lid was slightly ajar, and the faint, ethereal melody seemed to emanate from within. As Sarah reached out a trembling hand towards the music box, a vision flooded her mind. She saw a young girl, frail and pale, lying on the same operating table decades ago. She clutched a similar silver locket in her hand, her eyes filled with a quiet sadness. A kind-faced nurse sat beside her, gently winding a music box, the same hauntingly beautiful melody filling the room. The girl's name was Eliza May, and the music box was her most treasured possession, a gift from her mother. Eliza May had succumbed to her illness, but her spirit, it seemed, had remained tethered to this place, her sorrow and fear echoing through the empty halls. The other spectral figures, Sarah realized, were likely the other patients, their pain and suffering amplified by Eliza May's lingering presence. But the music, it was a beacon of peace, fragment of love and hope in this desolate place. It had somehow created a pocket of light amidst the darkness. Suddenly, the golden orb pulsed more intensely. A wave of warmth washed over Sarah, and a feeling of profound calm settled within her. Her ankle, which had been throbbing with pain, felt strangely numb. She reached for the music box, her fingers brushing against its smooth, cold surface. As she did, the humming stopped. The golden light faded, leaving the operating theater bathed once more in the pale moonlight. The spectral figures were gone. The oppressive atmosphere had lifted. Only the faint scent of dust and decay remained. Sarah stood there for a long moment, her heart still pounding, but now with a sense of awe rather than terror. She picked up the music box. It was small and intricately carved, identical to the one in her vision. The silver locket lay beside it on the table. Clutching both items, Sarah slowly made her way out of the operating theater, her injured ankle feeling surprisingly better. The corridors no longer felt menacing, the shadows less threatening. The sanatorium seemed to hold its breath, as if something profound had shifted within its decaying walls. As she emerged into the cool night air, the first rays of dawn painting the horizon, Sarah knew her life had changed. She had come seeking ghosts and found something far more complex, far more human. She had witnessed the lingering pain of the past, but also a flicker of something beautiful, something redemptive. She looked down at the music box in her hand. It was silent now, but she could still feel the echo of its melody in her heart. And she knew, with a certainty that defied logic, that Eliza May's spirit, and perhaps the others, had finally found some measure of peace. But the story wasn't over. As Sarah reviewed the footage later that day, she noticed something chilling. In the background of one of her shots in the operating theater, just before the mist appeared, a faint, almost imperceptible figure could be seen standing in the corner. It was tall and gaunt, but unlike the later apparitions, this figure seemed solid, and its eyes, even in the grainy footage, seemed to fix directly on the camera with an expression of pure, malevolent rage. The figure vanished as the mist rolled in, and Sarah hadn't noticed it in the heat of the moment. But now, seeing it clearly on the screen, a new wave of fear washed over her. Had the music and the light truly brought peace? Or had they merely new waved one entity, leaving another, far more sinister presence undisturbed? To be continued. The low growl that ended Sarah's video felt less like a sound captured on tape, and more like a phantom vibration resonating within her own chest. She replayed the footage of the solid, malevolent figure countless times, each viewing amplifying her unease. Unlike the translucent, sorrowful apparitions of the patients, this entity exuded a palpable sense of hatred, its gaze a cold, predatory stare that seemed to pierce through the screen and into her very soul. Sleep offered no escape. Her dreams were plagued by shadowy figures and the echoing growl. The once soothing melody of Eliza May's music box now twisted into a discordant lullaby of dread. The silver locket and the music box sat on her bedside table, tangible reminders of the night's events. She felt a strange connection to them, a sense of responsibility for the peace she believed she had helped to bring. But the image of that other figure, the solid shadow with eyes burning with malice, haunted her waking hours. Days turned into a week. Sarah tried to rationalize what she had seen. Could it have been a trick of the light, a shadow playing games in her exhausted mind? But the clarity of the figure in the footage, the undeniable malevolence in its gaze, defied any logical explanation. Her YouTube channel exploded. The first part of her Whispering Pines exploration went viral, garnering millions of views. Comments flooded in, ranging from disbelief to fervent agreement about the sanatorium's haunted reputation. Many spoke of a darker presence within those walls, a malevolent force separate from the suffering of the patients. Some even mentioned a shadowy figure, a legend whispered among locals, a former administrator known for his cruelty and the dark experiments he allegedly conducted. Driven by a need to understand and perhaps a morbid curiosity, Sarah delved deeper into the history of Whispering Pines. Old newspaper articles, archived patient records, and local folklore painted a grim picture. Dr. Alistair Blackwood, the administrator during the sanatorium's final, most brutal years, was described as a man consumed by a twisted ambition, his methods bordering on torture. There were rumors of secret experiments, of patients disappearing without a trace, and a pervasive atmosphere of fear that gripped the entire institution. The description of Blackwood from old photographs eerily matched the solid figure in her video. Tall, gaunt, with a severe, angular face and eyes that seemed to hold no warmth. A chilling realization dawned on Sarah. The sorrowful spirits she had encountered might have been victims of Blackwood's cruelty, their anguish trapped within the walls. And the malevolent entity she had captured on film might very well be the spirit of the man himself, a dark stain on the fabric of the abandoned sanatorium. Armed with this terrifying knowledge, Sarah felt a pull back to Whispering Pines. She couldn't explain it, but she felt a responsibility to confront this darkness, especially after the fragile peace that seemed to have settled with Eliza May's release. Perhaps the golden light in the music had not banished the darkness, but merely stirred it. This time she wouldn't go alone. She contacted a paranormal investigation team she had collaborated with before, a skeptical but open-minded group equipped with advanced recording equipment and a healthy dose of caution. They agreed to accompany her, intrigued by her footage and the historical accounts she had uncovered. The return to Whispering Pines was different. The air felt heavier, the silence more oppressive. Even her seasoned paranormal investigators seemed to sense a shift in the atmosphere. They set up their equipment in the operating theater, the site of Sarah's previous encounter, their EMF readers and infrared cameras whirring in the darkness. As they began their investigation, strange occurrences started almost immediately. Flickering lights, disembodied whispers that their audio equipment struggled to capture clearly, and sudden drops in temperature plagued the room. The feeling of being watched was palpable, a constant prickling sensation on their skin. Sarah clutched the silver locket, a tangible link to Eliza May. She hoped that the residual piece might offer some protection against the malevolent presence she felt lurking in the shadows. She also brought the music box, its silent form a reminder of the fragile miracle she had witnessed. Hours passed, filled with mounting tension and unsettling phenomena. The investigators captured some intriguing audio anomalies, faint cries and distressed moans, but nothing concrete. As the night wore on, a sense of frustration began to creep in. Had the malevolent figure been a fluke, a trick of her exhausted mind? Then it began, a low growl, chillingly familiar, echoed from the far end of the operating theater. The EMF readers spiked erratically, their digital displays flashing red. The temperature in the room plummeted, and a thick, icy mist began to coalesce near the operating table, darker and more ominous than the mist Sarah had encountered before. The investigators exchanged nervous glances. This was different. This felt hostile. From within the swirling mist, a figure began to materialize. It was tall and gaunt, its features hardening into the severe visage Sarah had seen in the old photographs and on her footage. The eyes burned with an intense, malevolent red glow, fixed directly on Sarah. Fear, primal and paralyzing, gripped her. This was him. Dr. Alistair Blackwood. The figure took a step forward, and a wave of icy dread washed over the room. The air crackled with an unseen energy, and the disembodied whispers intensified, no longer cries of sorrow but hateful, accusatory murmurs. One of the investigators, a burly man named Mark, bravely stepped forward, holding a crucifix. "In the name of God, leave this place," he commanded, his voice trembling slightly. The figure recoiled as if struck, a silent snarl twisting its lips. But it didn't dissipate. Its burning gaze remained fixed on Sarah, a silent promise of retribution in its red eyes. Suddenly, Sarah felt a warmth emanating from the silver locket in her hand. A faint, ethereal melody, the tune of Eliza May's music box, filled the air, growing stronger with each passing moment. A soft, golden light began to emanate from the locket, bathing Sarah in its gentle glow. As the melody intensified, the malevolent figure of Blackwood recoiled further, his form flickering and distorting as if battling an unseen force. The hateful whispers faded, replaced by the soothing, melancholic tune. The icy mist began to dissipate, and the oppressive cold receded. The golden light from the locket pulsed, and Sarah felt a surge of strength coursing through her veins. It wasn't her own strength, but something else, something pure and protective. She understood then. Eliza May's peace wasn't just for herself, it was a shield against the darkness that had tormented her and so many others. With newfound courage, Sarah stepped forward, holding the locket aloft. "You have no power here anymore, Blackwood," she said, her voice surprisingly steady. "Your cruelty ended when you died. The suffering here is over." The figure of Blackwood roared, a sound that seemed to tear through the very fabric of the room. But the golden light intensified, and the melody swelled, drowning out his rage. His form flickered violently, becoming more and more translucent, his malevolent red eyes dimming. Finally, with a final, silent scream of pure hatred, the figure of Dr. Alistair Blackwood vanished completely, leaving behind only the lingering scent of ozone and a profound sense of relief. The oppressive atmosphere lifted, replaced by a sense of lightness that permeated the operating theater. The investigators stared in stunned silence, their faces pale in the aftermath of the encounter. Their equipment, which had been going haywire moments before, now registered a sense of calm. Sarah lowered the locket, the golden light fading but a residual warmth remaining. The ethereal melody slowly died away, leaving a profound silence in its wake. She looked at the music box in her other hand, its silent form now imbued with a deeper significance. They spent the rest of the night documenting everything, the investigators' initial skepticism replaced by a bewildered awe. They had witnessed something truly extraordinary, something that defied their understanding of the paranormal. As they left Whispering Pines in the pre-dawn light, a sense of closure hung in the air. The darkness that had clung to the sanatorium for so long seemed to have finally been banished, not by force, but by the innocent peace of a young girl and the unexpected miracle of her lingering spirit. Sarah knew her story wasn't just about ghosts and fear anymore. It was about hope, about the enduring power of love and innocence to overcome even the darkest of evils. It was a story that needed to be told, a testament to the fact that even in the most haunted of places, miracles could still occur. But as she reviewed the final footage, a small, almost imperceptible detail caught her eye. In the last few seconds before Blackwood vanished, as the golden light from the locket bathed the room, a faint, translucent figure appeared beside him for a fleeting moment. It was a woman, her face etched with sorrow, her eyes filled with a quiet resignation. And as Blackwood was finally consumed by the light, this woman's lips seemed to curve into the faintest of smiles before she too faded away. Sarah realized then that Eliza May's peace hadn't just banished Blackwood. It had likely freed other tormented souls who had been trapped by his malevolence, finally allowing them to move on. The miracle at Whispering Pines was far greater than she had initially imagined. Suspense hook for the end of the video.